Hey everybody on YouTube. Today I thought I'd take out another moment to show you some EIJ reel-to-reel black and white repairs. This is part 2. If you watched an earlier video of what I done earlier, I had a Sony AV8600 color reel-to-reel video machine that I restored. Well, in the early 70s there was many different brands that used to make these machines, and of course majority of them were black and white. Well, Panasonic came out with their own version of the black and white unit, which is called the Panasonic 3020-SD, which means servo drive black and white unit. Here I've got one on the bench that I just got done restoring. Let me walk you through some of the big problems about Panasonic. Now, the big difference between Panasonic is Panasonic had better quality in workmanship in their, as far as their mechanics were involved, where Sony did it a little bit more cheaper with cheaper metal and various things. But the only problem with Sony, which I wish they could have actually corrected, if they would have done this, I think these machines would have been way better than Sony of the time. Panasonic used what's called a video head with brushes that dragged on the top of the contacts of the video head. Now here's the drum, and inside this unit there's a brush that actually pushes down on a disc that makes contact with the video head. I think this is a lousy way to make video brushes for video contact with video heads. They get noisy. Any little shift of this plate, if you unscrew it, the alignment's almost impossible to get the heads to line up or the contacts to line up with the brushes properly. I never did like the design the way Panasonic did, and well, they actually did these things, but I think if Panasonic would have used the side brushes like Sony did, they would have had an awesome product. But unfortunately, Panasonic's design compared to Sony is just a little bit different. Now, let me explain to you about the problem with this machine. Panasonic machines, it has another very big issue. It's the rubber parts, the belts and various things. Virtually most of all this stuff is not even in existence anymore. Getting rubber clutch tires and belts and stuff, various parts for this machine is extremely difficult. But I did get some stuff today, and I just want to walk you through some of my genius of repairing these machines, which I have my own little ways of coming up with solutions when it comes to repairing EIJ reel-to-reel video machines. So let me walk you through the upper part. Now, of course, you have to take everything off. You got to have a schematic if you don't know what you're doing. Everything has got to be lubed, greased, and realigned, and also the tensions have to be set factory. Now, if you have a service manual, you can actually do that properly. But remember, the whole upper part everything has to be removed, re-greased, new rubber clutch tires, and alignment, and everything else. And you also have to have what's called alignment tapes, and I'll show you those in a minute. Alright, I just got done doing this machine. Now, the upper part of the actual unit was a real pain. So let me walk you through some of the parts that I had to actually do to actually fix this machine. Alright, so here you go. Alright, this unit takes 2 clutch tires, which is 1, 2, alright, and they're on little plastic reels like this, okay, as you can see. And the problem with this is these are always destroyed. As you can see, this is cracked, very brittle. Alright? So I had to actually try to find these tires. I couldn't really locate these particular tires. So I was really in a fix because I could have them made, but they're very expensive. So since I have thousands of parts for these machines, I started going through all my clutch tires and guides and rubber rollers and various things, and I came up with a solution. I came up with the exact size, which is in a molded aluminum disc with the rubber tires on it, and all I had to do was configure the little pin so they would mount on the actual pin and spin properly. So it wasn't real hard to do, but it's an exact match for this one that was done with plastic, because I couldn't come up with a tire to actually replace this tire. So I was able to come up with a solution with other ones that actually do the same job and are better made than the original ones on these. So I put them in and they work perfectly, and I configured these to work, and they work better than the original actually. But the biggest problem is the rewind section. See this little rewind spindle right here? The rubber tire for this is almost impossible to find. I did some searching trying to find this size. It's a very big size. It's a about a 2¼ inch wide. And I did find a replacement. Actually, I ordered them online, and this guy only had 2 of them out of his stash, but he did have a replacement. See what a big tire this is? So I was able to replace the tire on that. So now when you go in the rewind is properly. It works the way it was when it was new, which is a very big issue. Alright? And then when you go and play, the ones that I fabricated work properly. Look at that. Look at the tension. These tires work fantastic for the play and the fast forward. Alright? So, on this Panasonic machine, I was able to come up with one rewind tire, but I was not able to come up with the clutch tires, but I actually came up with a solution to fix the problem, which is genius. I'm blown away that this actually worked out the way I wanted it to work out. So, I replaced the tire, which is this tire, which I found, and I replaced the clutch tires. Alright, so now you know that real pain in the butt it is to locate the proper tires for these Panasonic machines. It's very, very hard. Alright, now, as I've told you, you have to reset a lot of stuff, new belts, check the capacitors, and various things on these units. But there's a big problem because the rubber rollers on these go bad too. You got to clean them or replace them. I use what's called brake fluid. It does a beautiful job on cleaning these rubber rollers, and it makes them pliable again. So you want to make sure they're real pliable and got some good drag on them. You want to clean the pins. As you can see, this pin, I had it cleaned because it was very, very dirty, this is your Capistan roller drive. It was what it is. So I had to hand clean that with a brush to get it real clean and then install the rubber roller. Okay? So now the tape contact, when it comes through, is going to have perfect drag. Now, another big issue is this machine had a big alignment problem and the actual drag. You see this drag right here? I had to actually fix the drag so the drag was proper. It was dragging the tape too tight, so I had to actually factory set the drag on this unit. Alright, and then I had to replace the actual belt inside, which is the motor drive belt, which was a total disaster. Now, Panasonic ain't as bad as Sony. This machine I had to do some recapping, but not as bad as what the Sony models are. The Sony models are a disaster because you have to do everything. The Panasonic capacitors are relatively not that hard to get to and very easy to change. But as you can see, I also put a new belt on the actual, as you see the counter didn't work, so I had to replace both belts for the counter. And it's not important, but some people like the counter to work properly. So now that works properly. Alright. Now, the biggest problem is the alignment on the guides on these. I don't know, I don't understand why people think just because something doesn't work, you're supposed to mess with it. But they do. They screw with the guides and it throws the playback on these units completely off. Alright, now these is what's called EIJ alignment tapes. You got a color and you got a black and white. Okay? Now, on the Panasonic and Sony's, all the EIJ playback and alignments were all the same. That's the way they made these machines. So these Sony alignment tapes you can actually use on the Panasonic machines. If you got them, you got to find these, and these are really, really hard to get. All right. So basically, what you would do is you take the tape out, you put it in, watch the monitor, thread the machine, and you adjust these guides to get the proper alignment for the heads, using a tape that was pre-recorded by Sony for the proper alignment for the EIJ machines. Once you do that, you get the alignment properly, you won't have any jumping, you won't have any tracking issues, and the playback will be really, really nice. So you have to have the alignment tapes, imperative. If you don't have them, you won't be able to work on these machines if you don't know what you're doing. The alignment tapes, they really, really do matter. Alright. Now I'm going to show you one other thing. I had to replace the actual audio meter. This meter didn't work right, so I changed this one out. I had one that was perfectly working. You have to have a lot of machines for parts, at least 5 machines to fix one. I actually have coffee cans of belts, rollers, meters, springs, guides, roller, you name it. I have tons of parts for these machines. So I'm able to repair these and not have to go on eBay or anywhere else and spend tons of money just to buy a machine that doesn't work. And plus, you got to know how to fix them. So you're really wasting your time if you don't understand how to actually repair these machines. You have to have a lot of parts, a lot of know-how, and you got to have a ton of money if you're going to be buying these machines off eBay or something, trying to scrap them out for parts. All right. So now you understand the logistics. Panasonic, this was a very hard machine to fix, especially for the clutch wheels and the tires and the rewind tires. I had to come up with solutions, but I did find an original and I came up with a solution to fix the problem. Now it plays and rewinds perfectly. So we're going to show you a little tape here. I'm going to play a black and white tape on the monitor so you can see what it looks like. And just to show you everything moves and freely moves properly, and the tracking is in the lock position. Once you set the machine properly, you shouldn't have to mess with the tracking, and the tape should, the playback shouldn't be jumping all over the place. That's when you got a perfectly working good machine. Excuse the black rolling. That's because of the monitor with the camera actually shooting at the monitor. You get a black rolling on the screen. But as you can tell, I'm running a black and white alignment tape on this thing. To get the alignment of the actual pins that actually align it around the drum. As you can see, the tracking is in the locked position. It's tracking beautifully. This tape has got a lot of dropouts on it, but it's kind of beat up. It's a very old alignment tape, but it gives me the general idea that it's actually tracking and it's aligned properly. You just want to make sure it's not jumping like crazy in one point to another point, just to make sure that you got the proper alignment on the spindles. Another big problem is you're going to find out with these tapes is they get sticky and they shed a lot. So these tapes do have to be baked before you actually run a tape, because it will lock up in the machine. You will have a lot of problems. So you do need to bake and clean the tapes before you attempt to run any of these, because all these tapes from this period are sticky and they will lock up in the machine, jump all over the place. It's not the machine. Once the machine is done properly, you are in risk of damaging the machine if you do not bake and clean the tapes first. And they got to be done a special way and handled with proper gloves to make sure you get nice, clean playback, so that it's not locking up in the machine and it's playing really sweet on the monitor. And once you feed this to a time-based corrector and capture it to a videotape or a computer capture, a lot of the dropouts will be gone. You'll get clean video through that point if you do have a tape that has a lot of dropouts on it. But I'm telling you, you get some incredible playback on these machines if you do it right. So here you see Sony. It's an Nv-3020 standard servo drive standard machine, which is all done properly. The alignment's done. I just got done repairing this. See, folks, if you do it right, you can actually fix these machines. So if you have any questions, let me know. But I can guide you through any of these type of repairs. Thanks a lot.